Welcome back to another installment of Friday Q&A. I hope you've all had a fantastic week. As always, thank you so much for this week's questions. If you've got a question that you want me to answer next week, please put it in the comments section below. Ask me absolutely anything you like. I will do my best to get back to you with an answer next week. If you want to support the channel, there are the usual links to Patreon and the music I make in the video description. Before we get into the questions, I have my Hamer standard today plugged in, and it sounds like this. Big chugga chugga sounds right there. Alrighty, first question. What is that Marshall amp sitting in the corner there? It's been lurking for a few weeks now. This belongs to my buddy Nick, who's an awesome guitar player and has pretty awesome taste in amps. It is a modded 1959 model, so it's one of the reissue plexis. It's got a gain mod and a master volume mod, and you are all going to hear it on the channel very soon. So let me know what you would like me to use with it. If you want to hear it with some pedals, if you want to hear it with particular guitars, mics, cab combinations, I will do my best to bake in as many of those requests as possible. It's a really fun amp, and it is blisteringly loud. I've just been waiting for the right time when there's no one around to crank it as loud as possible and see what it sounds like on a recording. So that's going to be a very fun one. Look out for that one. And like I said, happy to take requests when it comes to particular tones there. Next one, the Alesis MIDIverb 3. I have not tried one. I owned a microverb for a while. I remember a few years ago, I got a bunch of kind of, 90s rack gear for really cheap as a bundle. I think there was some lexicon thing in there, like a compressor, the microverb, and I feel like there was something else. I think I sold most of it. I actually lent somebody the lexicon and I never got it back, but it's cool. It wasn't like a PCM or anything super desirable. I think I only paid like $100 or $50 for everything. So yeah, the microverb was cool, but I know the MIDIverb is like, it's the shoegaze rack unit and it has character about it. I've seen a few pop up locally over the past year, but now that somebody's mentioned it, I should probably get around to trying one out. So yeah, that sounds like a fun one. The quadriverb, is a classic. That video I did with the quadriverb and the MP1 is one of the few videos I actually go back and watch just because that's such a tone, you know what I mean? That was such an era with those things. And when I was learning guitar, it was so desirable because it was the Paul Gilbert thing, and I'm sure so many other people use it as well. So yeah, keen to check out the MIDIverb. What tuning do I use for Ragdoll stuff? We use drop C. So the idea with drop C, if you're familiar with drop D, you take this string and you tune it down to D. That would be drop D. But then you take all the other strings from that particular tuning, you tune them down another whole step again. So you would have a low C, then a G, then a C, then an F, then an A, and then a D. And every now and then people kind of pop up, especially when I'm demoing amps and I'm using my drop C guitars, and people are like, oh, why do you tune down so much? It sounds like mud and real men playing 440 and the usual totally non-toxic guitar comments that you get on anything when you do anything not 100% orthodox, even though it's super common. Like, so much stuff is in drop tunings and, slide tunings or open tunings. And, I'm buzzed by Michael Landau as in Michael Landau. Who's Michael Landau? Is he like Lando Calrissian's brother or something like that? But yeah, Michael Landau, I'm buzzed. That's in drop D, and that's the least like chugga muddy guitar tone of all time. It's like the most sparkly guitar tone of all time. So I'm getting sidetracked here. We use drop C because it suits Ryan's range better. It's not that he can't hit the high notes. It's more that like the sweet spot for him seems to be C minor or G minor or F minor, the keys that are close on the cycle of fifths. So it's all about optimizing your strengths, especially when you're a three-piece band. And yes, it's tuned lower. It kind of sounds a little bit heavier, but a tuning doesn't make something heavy. Distortion doesn't make something heavy. It's how you play and it's your attitude that makes it heavy. So yeah, that's why I like drop C. And plus, you know, you don't have to just do these. You can do heaps of fun stuff and play chords like this. So yeah, it lets me basically play two guitar parts at the same time. That's why I really, really like that particular tuning. Speaking of the Ragdoll stuff, if I had to pick 3 songs to show someone for the first time, which ones would they be? Or if I could pick 3 favorites, I would probably go with Shine as the first one, because I was just talking about Ryan's voice and it's amazing. There's not many people on the planet who can do what he does with his voice, and it starts with his voice, so it's kind of like starting with your strongest suit there. So I go for that one. And number 2, either one of the 2 newer songs, Rust or Follow the Leader. That would be a 50-50 split because I love playing both of them live. Rust has probably the trickiest but the most satisfying guitar solo in our entire set to play. And then Follow the Leader is basically just like, it's our tip of the hat to Dogman by King's X. It's all about the groove and it's all about trying to really lock in and groove as a band and just, you know, have fun, which is, you know, kind of what playing live music is also about as well. So either of those 2 songs. And for a third choice, I would go with a kind of sentimental one, Self-Censored, which is off our All I Want EP. And fun little story from that one, we were recording all the guitars for that here. I think I was sitting here and friend of the channel, Troy Nababan, was producing and engineering and doing everything else that he does, polishing our turds basically, sitting here. And I had a whole bunch of tries at the solo and he said, look, go and run around the block, come back in and just play the solo. You know, go and clear your mind, get amped up and do it. I remember thinking, yeah, this will never work. And when I went outside, it was raining, it was miserable. So I ran around the block as fast as I can and I'm muttering under my breath like, stupid Troy making me run around the block. I came in, I grabbed my 335, he tuned it up, this track was queued up, I like slid into the chair and I played the solo that made it on the record. And yeah, that one has some really lovely layered vocal harmonies and it's mostly like a clean tone with rhythmic delay, and it's that other side of how I like to play guitar and the stuff we like with the band as well. In fact, the working title for that song was Rush Police. So yeah, you can see where the inspiration for that one came from. I just gave you 4 songs for a 3, you know, pick any 3, but yeah, pick any 3 from those 4 songs is what I'll say right there. And that's what I would show people to show off Ragdoll. And if you want to check out some Ragdoll, you can actually go and listen to as many songs as you like. Our music is linked in the video description. The best way to pick it up though is visit our Bandcamp site, and there will be some new t-shirts up on there over the week as well. We just got a bunch printed and I took delivery of them, which is really, really fun. So yeah, anyway, talked about myself enough. How do I like the action on my guitars? As low as possible. I remember reading a Frank Gambale interview where he was talking about how he picks and all this kind of stuff and how he sets up his guitars, and he was basically like, look, I just want to be like water rolling downhill. I want it to be, I'm going to take the path of least resistance. And I remember being like 14 or 15 and reading someone else being like, oh, you need a high action, yada, yada, yada. And setting up my guitar with like the stupidest, highest action for about a week. And everything I played sounded out of tune and terrible. So that experiment didn't work very well. And when I got my first PRS, pardon me, the action was so low. And I was like, oh my God, a guitar with a low action. This all makes sense. I can play easier on it. I can express myself more. So yeah, I think for me, having a low action just makes the guitar a more transparent vehicle for what I want to do on it. So that's why I go with that. And shout out, I need a sip of water. What's happening to me? Let's do this. Refreshing water. It's actually not water, it's actually the like dregs of my lemon and ginger tea. It's mostly water, but It's kind of spicy. Shout out to Tim at MT Guitars for helping me set up a bunch of my guitars. I had a bunch of them plecked and they all play so much better for the experience. So nice low action for me. Okay, few practice tips. This one came from, I think it's Rumi73, talking about the Al Di Meola style palm muting and how to do it. I remember reading an Al interview where he talks about using the lower part of his palm on the high strings, which at the time I was like, well, doesn't everybody do that? Because that's how I had kind of figured out how to do palm muting. And I've listened to Al Di Meola, John McLaughlin, and Paco de Lucia on that Friday night in San Francisco so much. It's one of my most listened to albums ever. And what he's doing on acoustic guitar is just transcendent. But yeah, what I find is that I saw an Andy Wood thing this week where he called it a nublet. So you kind of get the nublet on there and you could go from something like this. And yeah, that totally sounds like Al Di Meola. I'll give you an example over a backing track at the end. But yeah, try and use that part of your hand and practice it with your guitar unplugged. I find that's a really good way to get the kind of required percussiveness. I also saw another interview with Al where he said he developed the technique because he didn't want people to hear him practicing. So he would, you know, kind of do this thing and really choke up on it, which is kind of cool as well. You can try both of those approaches. So there's that. Another one about 16th note strumming. How would I practice it? And again, Al Di Meola being a great teacher as well, talking about always tapping your foot. So if I'm tapping my foot quarter notes, which I don't know if you can hear that, I would go through and just take a chord and I would practice playing it on the beat. So like on the numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then on the ands, and 2 and 3 and 4, and then if I was counting 1 E-ander for 16ths, I would get the E's and the A's. So this kind of thing, I'm going to use a, well, I guess because I'm in drop C, that's a C7 sharp 9. So to be, I made a mistake with that. You guys kind of get the idea there. That's a really, really great exercise. Also, you could just do it with low string chugs if you prefer. So this kind of thing. If you want to do more of the downstroke style thing there for 16ths, that one works really well too. Another kind of practice tip is about fretting and how hard you fret. And in general, I find we all fret a little bit too hard. You know, you see that thing of guitar players doing this. And it looks like they're squeezing the guitar so hard. And I know subconsciously, I just used to press so hard on the guitar and try to, you know, really just squeeze it like I'm trying to squeeze juice out of it or something like that. But what I found recently is you can back off so much more than you expect when it comes to fretting, especially if you're trying to do legato stuff. So a cool little exercise would be to play so softly you don't even make the notes. So if you took a sequence like this, what I did was I basically just tried to move my fingers as little as possible, and there was a point where I wasn't even pressing. I was just touching the strings And then you just increase the pressure until you cross that threshold where you're actually making a note. That is a great way to sit down and practice not fretting too hard. And it's a great way to increase stamina on your fast lines so that you're not pressing too hard, so that you're kind of not getting tense. It's all about decreasing tension. So think of it through that lens, decreasing tension. For example, I'll try to press really hard and play a fast picked line. Versus the same thing, I'm going to try and back off as much as possible. I actually think the second example sounded a little less kind of choked and a little bit more in time because I was more relaxed, and you couldn't tell that I was barely touching the strings there. So that's practice tip number 2. The last one, this popped up on my Discord server as like something from a classical guitar technique book, where if you're practicing something, whatever it is, say we were doing that run I just did there, where you practice it, say 2 times slowly and then 1 time at kind of tempo. So if you just think half time and at tempo, you might have something like this. Then you go and do it 2 times slow. Then you do it 1 time fast. So you get that kind of almost guaranteed 2/3 of your playing is going to be hyper accurate, but you're also practicing playing it at tempo, which is another important part about practicing. Or you could do a 50-50 split or something like that. So yeah, there's some little practice tips for you there. There's 2 more questions. My favorite Gary Moore album. It's not Still Got the Blues. It's not After Hours. They're right up there though. It's Corridors of Power. And it's just such a great sounding raw rock record. Gary's playing is ridiculous on it. Like, listen to The End of the World, that song, and the intro on it. You can almost smell his picks melting because he's picking so hard and so intensely, and it's just like the sound of sheer willpower. And his playing's just so on. His singing's incredible. Ian Pace on drums. I think it's Don Airy on keys. Correct me if I'm wrong. And Jack Bruce sings a song on there. 9 songs. There's heavy rock. There's up-tempo stuff. There's ballads. There's blues. It's the perfect Gary Moore album to my ears. And we'll end this one by me talking about 5 of my favorite recorded tones. If I had to pick 5 guitar sounds to listen to for the rest of time, off the top of my head, it would be... I know I just talked about Corridors of Power being my favorite album, mostly for the songs. You know, it's got to be that guitar sound on Still Got the Blues. It's just... If aliens came down to Earth and said, show us what electric guitar sounds like, I would show them that. Just so good. Robin Trower's sound on the Bridge of Sighs record is, again, just transcendent, especially his clean sounds. The like whole vibe, echo, wah-wah thing is, yeah, amazing. Another one that I really love, it's David Gilmour, no surprise, but it's from the song On an Island, the album On an Island, and whatever the kind of big intro piece is on there, Castellerizon or something like that. Again, me butchering names, it's what I do. I think he's playing a gold top with P90s or something. It's really amazing. I'm gonna go outside the kind of rock genre for now, and we talked about Al Di Meola earlier. His sound on Flight Over Rio, the thick, distorted, like Santana on steroids thing that he has going on is so good. But then when he plays fast, he kind of backs everything off, and it's really articulate as well. And one last one. There's so many. I'm gonna go with Chris Oliva's guitar tone on Savage's. Which one? They're all pretty awesome. He had a pretty like crushing, colossal guitar tone. We'll go for Edge of Thorns, because just that song was kind of the song that really made me want to play heavy music. So yeah, there's 5, and I could go on with 500 more that are amazing. Anyway, that is this week's Q&A. Thank you all so much for the questions. Again, if you've got questions for next week, let me know in the comments. If you want to join the Discord server, it's linked in the video description. Got a Discord jam coming up this Sunday, so if you want to be on the next Discord jam, join the Discord server, get in the practice channel, and show us what you got. And here's my terrible Aldemiola impression. Thank you so much for watching.